Hey, today I'm talking about 3 Japanese horror films from the aughts. And the names of those 3 films are Dark Water, Pulse, and Tokyo Gore Police. First up is Dark Water. This is a 2002 film, and the basic premise is this mother in the middle of a divorce is struggling to adjust to the single life with her daughter while also having to find a new career. And then what's extra annoying is their brand new, really shitty apartment is having all sorts of problems. But maybe there's also a ghost. So this film's really good. It's not scary in like the ass sort of way, it's more scary in like the existential dread sort of way, which I'm a big fan of in general, but I think they do a good job here. There's also just a ton I really like about this movie. For instance, like it's a mystery, and the mystery itself is really interesting and really satisfying, and I extra love to, near the end of the movie, I was like, oh, it's gonna be this. And then I was like, wait a second, it is gonna be this because of this and this and this. Oh my God, it's totally gonna be that. And then they did more things that satisfied my theory, and I was like, it's gonna be this. And then like 2 scenes later, they revealed it was the thing I thought it was. And I was like, I feel so smart. But then there was a bunch more movie left, and I'm like, oh, what are they gonna do? And it was really interesting. Also, I have to talk about the daughter in this. Their character is 5, almost 6 years old, and I have to imagine the actor was around the same age. She crushed it. She was such a good child actor. Like, I'm kind of blown away by how good she was. So I, without a doubt, applaud that child actor, and also the director for being able to capture this kid being a freaking badass. So yes. I also love too that you could take this at face value of like the spooky things are actually happening and there's ghosts and stuff, but I think they left enough room in there that maybe they didn't. Maybe this was just a woman who was going through a mental breakdown, and this was her brain trying to make sense of her mental breakdown. And yeah, no, it's really, really interesting, and I really enjoyed it. It is a little slower and a little quieter, but I think it definitely pays off in the end. So yes, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie and would totally recommend it. If you want a good little scary time, this is a good little scary time. Next up is Pulse. This is a 2001 horror film, and the basic premise is a little difficult to say. I like this movie. I definitely like this movie. It was recommended to me by my brother, and I definitely like a lot of the concepts and ideas. I enjoyed the first half. There's no doubt that I liked the first half. But then the second half, when they started to explain stuff, I struggled to follow what was happening. And I even went back and like slowed it down and like paused on the subtitles, and I'm like, am I understanding what they're saying right now? And I'm like, no, I don't get what's happening. What is he saying? So then I just decided to go to Wikipedia to see what Wikipedia described as the plot, and I'm like, oh my God, that's what's happening? Okay, I get it. But it's frustrating that like I just couldn't get it without having to take this extra step of going to Wikipedia. So I do kind of almost wonder if it was just like a bad translation or just an old translation or something like that, and that's why I was struggling. But yeah, so I will say what the premise is, but it is a spoiler technically, but I think that's a good thing to know because it's what I would have wanted to know going into this. So the spoiler basic premise is the afterlife is full, and ghosts/spirits are now invading the real world, an apocalyptic event, and not necessarily killing people, but more so like making them really depressed, and then they just vanish. So I really like that idea. That's such an interesting, unique idea. And I do think the actors gave good performances. I just didn't understand what was happening. But with you now knowing what the premise is, I think you could go into this movie and enjoy it more than I did. So I think this is a film that upon rewatch in a couple of years, when I sort of forgot what the premise is, I'll probably like it more. I definitely liked it now and would recommend it if you're intrigued, because again, the biggest hurdle is the thing I already told you, so you're more set up for success than I was. So yeah, it's a decent little movie. I'd recommend. And lastly is Tokyo Gore Police. This is a 2008 gory horror film, and the basic premise is in a future Japan, there now exist these mutant type people. If they get a part of their body cut off, like an arm, the arm will grow back, but as a weapon. The most iconic one is from the guy who lost his penis, but I can't show you that picture because it's a penis. But I will show you my second favorite one, which is a woman who got her body chopped in half, and so her bottom half turned into a giant crocodile head, and she had to scoot on the ground to go kill someone with her giant alligator head leg, and it was great. Okay, so this movie is something else. Looking at it objectively, it's something that I would love. It's intentionally being really ridiculous, and its ridiculousness is pushed to an absurd degree, and it's really fun and insane, and just like all of the weird body weapons are just bonkers, and the movie's just trying to gross you out as much as it possibly can, and it succeeds without a doubt. And I think had I watched this with like a group of friends and we were all drinking, I would have loved this movie. Like full stop, it would easily be a really liked, my top ranking. But I didn't. I watched it sober and alone. And I really struggled with this movie. First off, there's a cheapness to this movie, which feels wrong to say because like they put a lot of money into making the creature effects, but it's like they filmed it on like a mini DV camera, and so it just looks like this thing doesn't have any money. Usually that's not that much of a turn for me, but for some reason it was just really piling on, especially with my other complaint, which is I'm probably going to be the first person ever to compare this movie to this other movie, which is Paris Je t'aime, which is like 18 short films back to back, and that's a pretty good movie. But one of the issues with that movie is that one of the hardest parts of storytelling is the beginning, because your reader is trying to get acclimated to your world, what are the rules of this world, and then on top of that it's like getting to know the names and faces of your primary characters, who am I supposed to care about, like all that sort of stuff. And with Paris Je t'aime, you have all of these short films back to back, every like 10 to 20 minutes, you're doing that hardest part over and over again, and that can get really taxing. Like even if you're having a good time, that can still build up and be detrimental. And what's weird is that same thing is happening in this movie, except every like 5 minutes it kind of switches to new characters over and over again. And what doesn't help too is that they have all of these like fake commercials interspersed within the movie, and it's not always clear right away that you're watching a commercial. So it's just like we're getting thrown into this new situation with all these new people, and it's supposed to just be a joke, and it is a joke, but it just adds up so quickly of just like trying to figure out what the hell is going on every 5 minutes. So I wholeheartedly understand why there's people with a deep love of this movie. It makes a lot of sense, but because I didn't watch it in the best setting, I tried so hard and I did not care for this movie. That being said though, I would still recommend it. Like it's an insane bonkers off the wall movie, but if you want really gross gore stuff, this movie is filled to the brim with it, and you're probably gonna enjoy yourself a lot. So even though I didn't enjoy myself, I think there's a good chance if that's what you're looking for, you're gonna have a really fun time. Also, probably don't be sober. That'll probably help things too. Alrighty, now for today's rankings. First up, we got Dark Water sitting at number 68 in the really like section. And then after that is Pulse sitting at number 176 in the liked category. And then bringing up the rear is Tokyo Gore Police sitting at number 208 in the didn't like category. Remember, I do recommend that movie even though I didn't like it. And this is at a total of 219 old movies so far this year.